Yeah, this is the second session of the developing blockchain smart contract using Dovetail. In the previous session, we've demonstrated how, sorry, we've demonstrated how to set up the Dovetail development environment. And the setup steps are also documented on GitHub. We'll post the link at the end of the demo. In this session, we'll demonstrate how we can define, build, and deploy a smart contract in a test network of Hyperledger Fabric. So let's get started. Disclaimer, go back. So this is basically the process of the developing smart contract. So at the beginning, you would create a smart contract in the JSON file. And then we run this Flogo plugin command to compile it to generate the Flogo flow model. And then we load the model into Flogo web UI so you can edit the mapping, data mapping. After you're done, you export it, this JSON file as a model. Then you run the script to build the model into a deployable package for this Hyperledger Fabric. And then you use the tool of Hyperledger Fabric to deploy onto the Fabric network. So that's basically the process. So let me show you an example. So in here, we've installed the open Dovetail packages. The most important one is this one, the Fabric chaincode, which in the last session we already told you, demonstrated how to get that one set up. So in here, we have an example. So as you can show here, this is there's a contract JSON file. That is I pre-set up this very simple contract that contains only two transactions. This is how it looks like. So you have a list of contracts, and for here we have only a simple contract, which contains multiple transactions. So the first transaction is called create marble. It's just a very simple marble creation, just like a classic Hyperledger Fabric contract. And this create marble, it receives 4 attributes. You know, that data people would invoke, the invoker was sent. Name, color of the marble, the size of marble, and the owner of the marble. And in here, you would have contain a list of the rules. In here, we have only one rule, so we don't even need a condition. If you have multiple rules, you can put a condition block in there. So in the action, you have 2 activities. The first activity is basically just call a put activity, and that's basically putting the data into onto the blockchain, into this distributed ledger called marble. So the input schema is defined as marble key value, which we'll define later. And the return will be return the results. And there's another transaction that's called a get marble, which is just a query. So in here, we just call a get activity to query the marble contract, or the marble ledger. And this is after you get the ledger out, you just return it. And the components that defines the marble data structure that says 4 attributes here. And you can also have a name value pairs. The name would be the key of the marble, and the value would be the marble contract, the marble ledger. So now, let's start getting started with this. So the first thing you do after you define the contract is run this command called contract to flow that generates a Flogo flow that's called simple JSON, which you can do edit it in the UI. So now, if I do else, so you see that simple JSON, the data model is just created as of today. So now we can go to Flogo. let's exit out this. So this is a Flogo UI, and we actually have two different UIs. One is a typical enterprise UI. The other is open source UI. You can use either one of them. So I'm just using the enterprise UI. It has a better mappings. Here, you can show that there are a lot of, quite a few of the Flogo activities that are already installed. For example, there's a put, that's what we call in the create Flogo, create the marble contract, and the get, that's for the get. So those are the only two activities we're using. To get started, we first need to create. Let's rename it, called simple FE. So then you can import the model, import the model. So the model that we just created called simple JSON. So you upload it. Now it's import all. As you can see, this contract is loaded. And as you know that we have a create marble. In here, we didn't really, in the contract, we didn't really put any input in there. So you can see the data is still yet to be mapped. So let's map the key. As you can see the flow here, that's a parameter. That's our input parameter for this contract. We'll use a name as a key for this ledger. And the value, what contains all these values, attributes of this particular marble ledger. So let's map the color to the color. And doc type, we don't have it. So let's just make it as a marble. So this is a ledger named marble. And you can also call this different functions. If you need to concatenate data, different things, there's a lot of these pre-configured functions that you can call. But for now, we don't, for this one, it's very simple. We don't need to do that. And the marble value, name, owner, we just map the owner. Size, we map the size. Now we save it. So the map is mapped, and all other things are already configured for you. And now we can just export this model, export apps. So you can see it's actually exported as simple fe.json. Now we got that. We can just go back to the console to build it. So in here, we already have this simple FE. That's the Flogo model. And we run a build script. This would get all these necessary packages from the internet, because all these components are open source. So it just gets all these, say like it gets the open Dovetail, get, and put. Those are the activities we just imported. And then we built this as a contract that you can save, you can deploy. As you can see, this is the Fabric contract that we just created. Now we just need to deploy that into the test network. So the easiest way is just copy it. So this is what I do. So I just copy this contract into the test network, which is installed on the hyperledger Fabric examples chaincode. So we just copy it over there. And since I already started, this test network is already started here. So you can confirm that, use Docker TS. That shows you that this test network contains one peer, two peer, there's two peers, one peer for each organization, and you order it. And there's a CLI container also running, which we are going to use to install and test. Now let's do a install. So we use this script called the init to install CC, which is good. It first install onto organizations once peer. So that's what it's looking for. They're basically uploading the zip file onto the peers URL here. Okay, here you go. So it installed for the organization one, that one. It usually takes much faster. So I guess it's just my laptop has some problem today. This one is not really part of the Dovetail. It's just it's a Fabrics tool. So installed on organization 2, and now it needs to approve it. So the org 1 is approved, org 2 is approved. After both of them, both organization approves, then it'll commit the contract onto the network. So after its contract is approved and committed, you can see that the 2 more processes are running. So these are the containers running the contract. Okay? One is on org 2, the other is on org 1. Now we just need to run some tests to make sure that it actually works. So this one, this test script is inserting 4 marbles onto the network, onto the ledger. So as you can see, you put marble 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are not generated onto the distributed ledger. And then it runs 2 queries: get marble 1 and get marble 2. Both are successful. So that basically proves that we've built the smart contract, and we deploy the smart contract onto the test network, and we run the test. They're all successful. That's basically the demo, and we can, if you want to get more details, these are the links that's on the internet. It's Open Dovetail Fabric, the simple contract. This one is what this is the example we just showed. And if you want to see a more advanced contract, you can look at the Fabric chaincode contract folder. That is a more advanced